Welcome back. It is episode 55 of The Highly Sensitive Woman, and I want to continue our conversation about making decisions and what to do next. So I'm assuming that many of you can relate to what it is like to finally make a decision and then immediately start questioning the decision that you just made, or you send a text message, you have a conversation, you set a boundary, and then instantly start replaying every detail, wondering, did I say the wrong thing? Or you choose something for your family or your finances or your business, and then later you're just constantly second guessing it and imagining what you should have said or what you should have done instead. And what happens is we start kind of writing what already happened when we do that, and we are searching for mistakes and we're trying to gain some certainty and trying to go back and fix something that is already complete. And this is a very normal thing to do, completely normal, and it happens to every single one of us. And last week, we talked about making a decision and taking action, but there's the next part of the process that we don't always spend enough time on. And so today I want to jump into what happens after the decision or the event, and your mind starts to try to go back and rewrite it. Because if you don't know how to support yourself after the decision, your mind will keep pulling you backward and you will fall back into old patterns that you're working really hard to change. So when this happens, your brain is trying to find certainty because it feels really, really secure in certainty. And your brain and your body are trying to avoid regret, and you have this really strong desire to get it right because you have this fear that if you get it wrong, that there will be some sort of disconnection in some way. And your brain and your body are just trying to protect you from that disconnection, trying to protect you socially and emotionally. And as highly sensitive women, we experience this kind of on a heightened level because we are so self-aware, we're aware of other people, and we just process things so deeply that we find ourselves often falling into these old patterns of self-criticism, which then leads us to not want to make a decision in the future, and we just kind of stay stuck in this cycle. So your body and your nervous system may still be activated after a decision because of this, and after having conversations with people, and your mind is really just trying to create safety from all of that analysis. And this is something that I am working with my clients all the time. They make a decision, they felt really good about it at the moment that they made it, and then a few hours later, or maybe the next day, they're convinced that they've made the wrong decision, they've said the wrong thing. And then when they come to the sessions with me and we really slow it down, we often discover that it's just their mind kind of filling in a story that isn't necessarily what happened, or it's not helpful for moving forward. And there's just a really big cost that comes with replaying the decision and rewriting what happened. And your brain wants to fill in those gaps. And if the other person or the scenario doesn't go exactly the way that we want it to, the brain will often fill in those gaps with negativity. Like, it's just a very normal, natural thing to do, the way that our brains and our DNA was designed. And what happens then is we go down this spiral, and that spiral keeps us stuck. And our goal is to not be stuck. We reinvent things, we add meaning that may or may not be true. And this spiral and staying stuck in those old patterns, it just erodes our self-trust. And we stay stuck in the past. We're constantly looking for mistakes and doubting our choices. Our nervous system stays in a constant state of being activated, and we're just emotionally exhausted. There is a very big difference between this kind of rumination and spiraling that happens and reflection that allows us to grow. Reflection can be very, very healthy and allows us to make different choices moving forward and to make the changes that we so strongly desire. But rumination, that is the thing that kind of really keeps us stuck, because you're just constantly putting yourself on trial for decisions that you have already made, and you're just in that loop. And so today I want to give you a process for how to get out of that loop, how to get unstuck, and to start really making decisions and taking really good care of yourself after you make them. So this process is, we're going to pause, reflect, redirect, and reframe. And you may find yourself bouncing back and forth between those. It's not intended for you to be perfect. It's not intended for this process to be very rigid and you must do step one before you do step two. No, it is a very fluid process. But what it is designed for is to give you something intentional to do after you've made a decision and you find yourself starting down that spiral again. So the first one is to pause. This is to take really good care of your nervous system first and to interrupt the spiral as it's starting, or you may be several hours into the spiral. At any point during the post-decision spiral, you can pause to create some awareness of what is happening in that moment rather than having judgment. And this isn't about fixing your thoughts or making any changes. This first part really is simply noticing that you are in the spiral and asking yourself some questions. So first, you can ask some body-based questions. What am I feeling in my body right now? Is my chest tight? Is my stomach tense? Have my shoulders raised? Really noticing what you are feeling in your body. Is your breathing shallow? Is your heart racing? All of the things, like truly just noticing what is happening in your body. And the next part to that is some nervous system awareness and asking yourself, am I truly unsafe or am I uncomfortable? And those are two very different things. If you are in an unsafe environment, you want to take action. If you are uncomfortable, that is a very different thing. And we want to give your body a chance to come down from its heightened state. So if you recognize that you are safe, like your environment is safe, and you are uncomfortable, then asking yourself, has my body even had a chance to settle since I made the decision, or since I sent the text message, or since I set the boundary, or do I need to give it a little bit more time? Because so often we layer on top of an already activated nervous system because we have fear, right? Like we know what could happen because we've experienced what we do to ourselves when we have an activated nervous system. And recognizing that now you're layering on top some fear or some anxiousness because your body has been activated. And so allowing that activation to come down by taking some deep breaths, or if your nervous system is activated because of a call that you just had or a text that you just sent or an email, whatever the case may be, stepping away from your phone and changing your environment. Maybe you go outside and get some fresh air, hopefully some sunshine. And then this one is so, so critical, moving your body, whatever that looks like. If you want to dance or sway or just like shake it out, go for a walk, maybe a bike ride, whatever the case may be, movement helps your body literally process the chemicals that are coursing through your veins as a result of your nervous system being activated. And it just helps that start to calm back down. And I experience this all the time. It is one of my favorite tools to simply move. And when we do that, we can notice that our mind is racing and that our body hasn't settled. And that added layer that I was mentioning is a nervous system response. And once we can calm the nervous system, then we can kind of move into step 2, which is to reflect. And we really want to reflect on what happened and from a very grounded place, because when we try to reflect from a very heightened state, we're often like trying to reopen the decision that we made and second guess it. And so we really want to get to that grounded state so that we can ask some very fact-based questions in our reflection. So some questions that you could ask yourself: what decision did I make? Like really getting to the facts of what did I choose? What did I say? What did the other person say? What were the actual words? What could be proven in a court of law if I was in a situation where I really had to just stick to the facts? Then you can kind of shift to, what evidence do I have that something went wrong? Our brains start to make an assumption, right? That the facts are wrong. What evidence do you have of that? What do I know to be true? Kind of bringing yourself back to some evidence that you might have from previous experiences. Maybe you're having trouble with a decision that you made to set a boundary with someone else. What evidence do you have about your relationship up to this point? What do you know to be true? If you made a decision about finances, what do you know to be true about the amount of money that you have in your bank, or the amount of money that you bring in as a result of the work that you do? Really trying to focus in our reflection on the facts. And then once we have the facts, getting really curious about what your brain was trying to do with those facts. And instead of assuming that you made a mistake or that something has gone wrong, kind of pretending to be a detective and simply gathering some clues. What assumptions am I making about what just happened, what decision I made, what interaction I just had? What am I making this mean about me? What am I making this mean about the other person? And then as you are exploring from a state of curiosity, bringing it back to some body awareness again and recognizing, as I'm thinking about this, as I'm listing out the facts, as I am being curious about the assumptions that I am making or the story that my brain is telling, what is happening in my body? Am I tightening or am I relaxing? The reflection piece is truly about understanding and clarity, and is not intended to be a punishment or to undo or change the decision that you just made. The next thing is, excuse me, that cold is still lingering. The next thing is to redirect and to kind of reclaim your energy. So once you have reflected, you want to choose where your attention is going to go. So you can continue with some questions. Is continuing to think about this right now helping? The other day I had an experience where my nervous system was very activated and I kept replaying all of the things that had just transpired. And I started down that spiral of, well, what if this and what if this and all of those types of things. And it was very late at night and I was trying to sleep, and I was able to take a moment and remind myself that right now I wasn't going to be able to solve any of it. And so continuing to think about it in that moment wasn't actually helpful. It was just costing me more energy and more sleep and sending me down the spiral. I'm not saying that I didn't revisit it the next morning. I absolutely did. But in that moment, continuing to think about it was not helpful. What would it look like if you let yourself just make the decision and be done? What would it look like if you allowed yourself to not ruminate and explore? What could that potentially look like? Asking yourself where you would prefer to set your attention in that moment instead of thinking about or replaying the decision or the experience that you just had. What would you prefer to be giving your attention and your energy to? And this one I love so much. What would it look like to trust myself in this moment, in this decision? And the goal of this really is to kind of return to the present moment and to engage in something grounding so that you can move forward with the next step. Because self-trust is not just about making the decisions, it's allowing yourself to stand in them and to move forward after them. And then this is where you really start to build the self-trust, is the gentle reframe. So this is really about a shift in perspective. And so often we go down the spiral because we are trying to solve for every possible outcome that has not yet happened, because you want to assure your brain that something has truly been addressed and you have explored it thoroughly, that if something did go wrong and there's a need to repair a relationship or to make a change to a decision or a situation, you want to assure your brain that you have done everything that you can to repair it or to make the change. And really, it's, I can handle whatever happens. I don't necessarily need to solve it right now. Imperfection is just part of being a human. It really is. And we have absolutely no guarantees of certainty with any decision that we make, even if we have ensured every possible component of that decision has been explored and we feel really good about the decision that we made and we are ready to move forward. There is still no certainty that it will, in the long term, turn out the way that we hoped that it would, right? Like people make job decisions and they feel like they've made the best decision that they possibly could with the information that they have, and then later either that job turns out to not be what they thought it would be, or the company ends up downsizing and they are let go. Like, there's no decision that we could ever possibly make that is guaranteed certainty. And I say that as encouragement, not discouragement, because if nothing is guaranteed certainty, then there's no way we could possibly expect perfection. And to me, that gives me a whole lot of relief. And it allows me to create some steadiness in the decisions that I have made, because I know that things are constantly going to be evolving, and the real challenge, the real what is the word that I want? The real important thing, the what truly matters is that whatever the outcome, that I can trust myself and be assured that I can take really good care of myself after. And that's what I want for you, and why these steps are so, so important and so helpful, because they are universal in any time we need to make a decision, anytime we find ourselves activated and going down that spiral, that we can pause, reflect, redirect, and reframe. So this is a big part of the work that I do with my clients, and learning how to, recognize when their mind is spiraling after a decision, and really trying to build self-trust so that they can step out of that loop and stay steady after they've made those decisions. Because what comes from that is less second guessing, a steadier nervous system, more confidence in your decisions. You've built that self-trust, and you end up having deeper relationships. And I know that's something that we all desire. So if this pattern sounds really familiar and you recognize yourself in it, you're stuck in that loop of making a decision and then immediately questioning it, and you want some support to build that steadiness and self-trust and the self-assurance to know that you will be okay no matter what happens, and that you can take really good care of yourself. This is the work that I do with my clients in one-on-one coaching, and you can find the link to learn more about working with me in the show notes. You don't have to build self-trust by getting every decision right. It really is just about learning how to support yourself after every decision that you make. And you are allowed to move forward with any decision that you have already made. Until next time, take care.